Hello.
Jason, you're stateside, right?
Yes, I'm in Phoenix,
Yeah.
Arizona.
Oh, okay. And I'm guessing you got to enjoy your 3-day weekend too.
Yeah, I went down to Mexico for a family visit. It was
Oh,
nice.
wow. Wow. Okay. That sounds like fun. I definitely just hung around the house. Vacation is where it's at lately with me.
Yep.
I'm backlogged on so many things at home. Let me find the meeting notes. I had them open earlier, but I lost them. There they are. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting that Zoom allows me to just share a portion of the screen. We use WebEx and it doesn't have that feature, interestingly enough. And if I share Chrome, it shares every single Chrome browser I have open. It doesn't matter if it's in a different screen or not. So it's kind of interesting how it works. Okay, let me share portion of the screen. Okay. Okay, so it might just be the 3 of us. So it could be a short meeting, or it might turn into a working session. We'll see where it goes. So let me, thank you guys, meeting notes, but let me put it in the chat if I can find the chat. There you go. Added the meeting template, Mike, for your recommendation, so that way I don't have to copy and paste it all the time, and undo stuff. Okay, so sign in. Hey Jay, thanks for joining. And I will post this just in case you didn't get the link before you joined. Oh, there's more people. Okay, I guess we can wait. Hello. Okay, so I'm posting the link again. Please sign in, and thanks for joining. And I think I'll start now since we're 2 after. So I see a newcomer. So would you like to introduce yourself? I've seen you present before, and I'm an advocate of your presentation. So, how do you pronounce your name? What is it? Whites? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, I was muted. Wietse.
Yeah. Oh boy. Wietse?
Yes, I'm just joining to find out if this is a meeting that I should attend.
Okay, Wietse. Okay, I'll try to remember how to pronounce your
That's
name.
good
Thank
enough.
you for joining. And I don't think I see anyone else that's new. I think other folks. Oh, Ava's new. Hey, Ava. Thank you for joining. I appreciate the time.
Hello. Yeah, just going to listen in today.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you. I am butchering your name, aren't I? A-E. I knew there was an E in there somewhere. And then
And Jeff just joined.
I'm looking. Jeff. Wait, who just joined? Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jeff.
Jeff. Oh, hi, Jeff.
Hey.
Thanks for joining. Okay. So quick updates from last time. I don't see Isaac on. I know he was working on 1 to 2 blogs about positioning with regards to, let me go back. He has a presentation on attestation that he presented last time, and actually the entire group really enjoyed it. So much so that we recommended he make a blog out of it. So I'll have to follow up with him offline to see, how that's going, if he needs any help. The other update is on the charter. We do have, if I bring up the charter real quick, The positioning charter, I know Kim had asked the question, well, you know, why do we have this? Why not the broader SLSA charter? And I tried to express, and please feel free if you disagree with me and agree with Kim, please speak up. But essentially, the SLSA charter is much broader and more ambiguous versus the SLSA positioning SIG, as well as the tooling and the specification. They're outcome focused. So they are driving towards specific outcomes. And in order to do that, they're going to operate in different ways. And obviously, whatever they accomplish are also going to be different. So that's, I think, from my point of view, why we have the positioning SIG charter, to make sure that we are, I guess, standardized, so to speak, of how we're going to operate going forward to make sure that we meet our objectives. Does anybody agree or disagree with that? Silence. Tough crowd. Okay. Maybe still waking up from the 3-day weekend. Okay. So for this charter, several people have reviewed. Thank you. I think what will happen is, if there is like this particular section, there's only 2. I would like at least 3. So there's a couple of sections at the end that haven't been reviewed. If you can review it by end of day today and give a thumbs up or thumbs down, I will post it here. That way we can open up a PR for the SLSA broader community to push it to their I guess guidelines or their governance. I'm not sure where they're going to put it, but that way we can get their blessing and publish it. Any questions, thoughts, concerns about this before we move on? No? Okay. Oscar. So Mike, not everybody was there, and maybe this warrants a new review, Mike. But during our working session last week, Mike presented OSCAL, which is a kind of like a framework to automate policy, is how I understand it. And so we decided as a group that we would use OSCAL to do the mapping of SLSA to the different frameworks or regulations. So that way, if something does change in the future, it's just a pointer. Mike, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think OSCAL is the, I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's a control assessment language. And so the idea, right, just it's a way of codifying the controls so that we can store them as opposed to just purely in something like a spreadsheet. They're stored in a structured language like XML, YAML, JSON, that sort of thing. And it lets us just sort of be able to have all the data in one place in that sort of structured way, and then everything else just becomes sort of a view in that. And then there's multiple different things, from like control catalogs, which contain the definitions of the controls and so on, to sort of individual projects and those sorts of things. And then the idea would be potentially, if we can kind of structure it in this or a similar standard, we could easily say, okay, well, here's the mapping of SLSA to SSDF to the CNCF stuff to OWASP and so on, and make it super easy to kind of do that. And then one of the other things that was kind of talked about was potentially, right, could people make assertions about their SLSA conformance in something like OSCAL, and is that something that we would be interested in supporting?
Anybody have any questions about that? Oh, I see some new names pop up. Really tough crowd today. Okay. So that kind of is all the agenda items for today. It's just a quick update. Do we want to repurpose the remaining time for an active working session? Does anybody else have any agenda items that they would like to bring up now? No, see, no. Okay, I vote for repurposing the remaining time for a working session. Anybody else agree?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. Um, obviously everybody's welcome to participate. For Mike, I really would like to try to get a better sense of how to implement OSCAL with our mapping. And for those that don't know, this is the mapping document that several of us that are on the call and off the call, we're trying to map SLSA levels to different frameworks. We focus first on the SSDF, and then we were trying to branch out. But obviously, as you can see, this is very much manual effort, and if something changes, a definition changes, then it would be a lot of work to update. So this is where OSCAL would come in to try to make it so that it's more flexible and easily populated, changeable, etc. So Mike, thoughts on how we can start with merging from this to OSCAL or changing from this to OSCAL?
That's where I'll have to do a little bit of research myself. It's been like 2-ish, 3-ish years since I've really been in the OSCAL sort of thing. I don't know if anybody else on the call is super familiar with OSCAL at all, or if they have any thoughts about anything that is similar. I am familiar with, I mean, the only stuff that I'm really familiar with nowadays in that is sort of IBM Trestle.
OSCAL. So if we go to OSCAL real quick, is it a tool that we download?
No, there's no tool. It's all like there is tooling. It's so OSCAL is similar to like SLSA at that level of like it's a standard it's some standardized formats, and then there's tooling for to sort of implement it.
Okay, yeah, validate. Okay, so there's validation, data conversion. Does anybody know if SLSA has kind of like an XML or JSON definition of their levels?
I'm not familiar. I don't believe so. We could probably write one up.
Okay, so maybe that's the first step. Create SLSA JSON XML definition file, so that way we can map it. I think you said CNCF has one in the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so there's some work that John, who is in charge of the CNCF controls working group, who is him and the team are working towards building that out.
Okay, so they don't have anything as of yet.
Not sure. Let me. I believe there is an issue, an open issue. Let me go and find that.
Thank you. And then I'm gonna open up the. Okay, so this is Trestle, which I've not heard of until you mentioned it to me. Ensemble tools. Oh, it leverages OSCAL.
Yeah. So Trestle is will so as a reminder, so OSCAL itself is just the assessment is just the language, and so it's just some standardized formats around, as opposed to having a control catalog that's just purely a spreadsheet. Here's an XML format that allows you to just kind of, put the definitions in there, JSON format, whatever. They'll let you put the definitions in there. And then the idea would be to use additional tooling to then make the manipulation and conversion and views into those documents really, really easy.
Okay. It seems like it's kind of helping to make it more user-friendly, at least Trestle, the way I'm reading it. Anybody on the on the team have experience with Trestle? That's on the call. And just because I'm IBM doesn't mean I can do it. I didn't even know this existed, so. 1.02, okay. So machine supported XML, JSON, YAML. When was the last, okay, 7 days ago, they did a couple of commits. May 23rd is the latest. Okay, that was a while ago. So let me go back. Oh, here's some other tools. Control Freak. Nice name. We can't do commercial. Pascal deep dive. Okay, so how about we put this on here? Maybe let's create an action item to review the tools and see which ones we think will work best. How long do you think we should give folks? I'm gonna start picking on people. I'll do it. I will do it. Jay,
I'm
you
in.
unmuted. Okay, yay. Thanks. Go ahead. Let's see. So did you say you're in?
I'm in. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we just going ahead and reviewing these to see what to kind of do a
Yeah.
deeper dive on them or something like that?
Yeah, just try to see, obviously nothing that we have to pay for, but which one of these tools do we think will, fit the requirements of what we're trying, jelly sandwich, that's funny, fit the requirements of what we're trying to accomplish, right? Which is basically changing this mapping into OSCAL format in an easy way that
Yeah.
doesn't take forever and a day. Okay. Okay, so thank you, Jay.
Mhm.
What about the SLSA JSON XML? Does anybody want to take that?
Well, so just as a FYI, so the SLSA JSON XML would be the OSCAL control catalog or whatever.
Yes, but we don't even have a definition file, right? Because the next thing after we have this, we would have to map it to the other stuff, and wouldn't these tools help? with that?
I mean, potentially. I think so. So like at its start, you would need to create an OSCAL document, and either you could do that via some tooling, or you could just create it yourself. But I think also with creating that XML definition file, I would be a little reluctant to go a little too far until the specification for 1.0 is fully defined.
Yeah.
I think we
So
could probably get started at least, but
maybe we can use a version 0.1 as an example, right? Because that's what we've been doing the mapping against, at least thus far. So where is it? Specification, requirements. I forget where that table is. Might be in requirements. There it is. So can we take this, right, and make it into, I can't imagine why we can't put this into an XML format or JSON format easily if we were to just do this. If we were to do above and beyond this, then I could see it being complicated. Do we think that this is the right thing to start with?
yeah, seems reasonable.
Okay, so summary table. This summary table. I think. Okay. Okay. What else? Okay, so we have to do that. So once we have the summary table and we have a tool that we could potentially use, would we try to find an OSCAL compliant or OSCAL file for, is it SSDF? And start that way?
Sure.
Well, I'm just guessing here since I don't know how this works. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah, no,
looking for
yeah. So
guidance.
we would go in and you would have you probably have the OSCAL one for, if they have one for SSDF. I know that they have them for 853 and I think some of the other ones, but yeah.
853. Okay, I see the 53 baselines, but I don't see SSDF. So there may not be one for SSDF. Is there a SSDF? 800.218. I was trying to figure out the doc version, 800.218. So we Googled. NIST. 800.218. OSCAL. I'm not seeing anything with OSCAL. So that might not exist. So does anybody have a contact at NIST that we could potentially ask, or somebody that works on this project that they know? No? Crickets today.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely reach out to the OSCAL folks, but I do think that they've you know, I mean, obviously a lot of this stuff has been very focused purely on, as I kind of mentioned last time, I don't want to say purely, but it has been traditionally very focused on stuff like, you know, US government interoperability kind of
Yes.
stuff. So different between different agencies and making sure that those agencies can share, you know, information and share, you know, control implementations and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I can't see a reason why they wouldn't have it for SSDF. Let me see if set up commit signing for, nope. Why they wouldn't have one for this, given that they would probably abide by this in the at the government level. Okay, so then I can email them. So email to see if they have, maybe they have an internal one that they can contribute to the open source file. And to have one. Okay. Anything else with regards to OSCAL? No. Okay, so for the new folks on the call, something brought you here today. So I'm kind of curious as to what you were looking to hear or contribute to, or find out about in terms of this positioning, or in terms of this SIG. So if people are willing to speak up, I would love to hear why you joined.
Curiosity.
Curiosity. Anyone else? Oh, tough crowd, really tough crowd today. Okay, well, for those that aren't aware, right, we're basically trying to position SLSA with respect to other frameworks, other regulations, trying to differentiate SLSA, show where the gaps are potentially in SLSA versus some other regulation or framework, maybe sometimes complementary. I think somebody mentioned, what was it last time? is it CNCF? Can't remember. A skit, salsa and skit are complementary, right? So when we can identify things that are complementary, or you're not talking apples to apples, that we're able to communicate that to the broader community so that they know the use cases for salsa. And so that's really our goal. And then that can be through various means, whether it be, doing these mappings, and hopefully having that as an OpenSSF document at some point, so that we can kind of advertise to the masses. Additionally, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, there goes Slack. Bruno distracted me. Sorry, folks. Don't remember where I was. So I don't know if that piques your interest or not, but this is what we've done so far, just trying to figure out where we're gonna focus on. What about blogs outside of the ones that Isaac mentioned because of his presentation? What else do you think we should focus on in terms of blogs for the broader audience? Nothing?
It may seem a little bit basic, but Mel, I keep going back to a couple of meetings ago when you were showing your essentially like the SDLC, and we talked a little bit about where kind of the use cases for essentially the use cases for salsa. That might actually make a pretty good blog or blog series.
Yeah, actually, let me bring that up for people that don't know. I know I have a picture of it, a PDF of it, but I know I also put it on our channel, the positioning channel. I can find it. There it is. Please feel slice and dice. I'm looking for it, folks. Give me one. Might have been in here. Yep, this is it right here. So let me download it so that way I can open it up much bigger than what it is. So for folks that don't know, this is something that I came up with internal to IBM, but I wanted to share it externally. So I did share it at the Open Source Summit. And this group went and, critiqued the visual, which I'm now starting to call supply chain security lifecycle instead of visual or framework. And so we have to think of these are corrections, obviously, that I have not implemented. Unfortunately, I've not had time. So are you saying, Jeff, to talk about, let's say, development as one blog and then build as another?
Yeah, exactly.
So what would we, hold on, let me try to bring notes out here. So what would we blog about in terms of development, in terms of, what security checks they should do? Because we're trying to focus on salsa, right? And salsa doesn't necessarily require some of these things.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is throughout the series, essentially what the series would focus on is kind of how, kind of the what and the how. So how would you implement salsa in the development phase? What is it you're looking for, and why is it important?
And why is it important? Okay. And okay, so then the same thing goes for build. And then what about I'm wondering about design considerations. Because this is a can of worms here, because it's so
Mhm.
many different types of teams, different personas. Public artifacts. We could also talk about the continuous compliance part, because that's just more than just the DevSecOps, right? It's also potentially the CISO office or
Mhm.
so okay, so continuous compliance, so build. What about somebody wrote publish artifacts or published artifacts? Do we want to talk about that with regards to SLSA?
Trying to think of what we would put there.
I guess a way of there. Go ahead.
Published story kind of gets into the intersection between it and Skip. So you put it out to an notary system to notarize it as to when it happened and give you some public way to get at it. Somebody's marked this up, said SIG store there. They're also coming into this space as well. Right? So as to where storage, do you use OCI or some of the other conversations, which is the document we just started with a couple weeks ago.
When you say you're referring to Skit?
Well, the SLSA team created a document as to where the heck we put SLSA claims and so forth, and invited people to fill it out. I've asked a few people to put some content in there, but that truly gets at the intersection of where are the public artifacts and how do you get them and how do you do discovery and things like that.
Got it. Do you have a link for that, Roy, by chance?
Well, I'll find it, and
Okay.
yeah, I'll find it for you. I'll post it back again.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've come across that, so I'm curious.
Yep.
Okay, so then that's one aspect of the publishing artifacts. Anything else we can think of? Because I don't think SLSA addresses any of these, like security advisory or contributing fixes to the open source community as an example.
With packages, SBOMs, things like that, what about signing?
Yeah, I thought the SIG store, isn't SIG store the signing?
Signing is the big box down there. Is this signing code signing, and that's a commodity that SIG store is currently sitting in. But there's
see that.
But whether you produce SLSA claims or a VEX or an SBOM or whatever, they'll all go through the signing service and have to be, to make sure they're immutable.
Yep. And I'm trying to think for continuous compliance. I'm trying to think. I do know that they have, what is it? I forget what group it is. I think it's in OpenSSF. There's like a machine learning SBOM group somewhere. And I thought it was in OpenSSF. Thanks, Mike, for joining. If he dropped off. Yeah, he dropped off already. I didn't see his note. Does anybody know this machine? Like, I thought they were using blockchain. And I thought it was an OpenSSF project.
There's a lot of discussion on what you have to do to prove ML provenance. So there's an active discussion.
Okay.
You mentioned blockchain to a lot of people, and you're going to get a lot of knee-jerk reaction saying, "Hey, that's converting energy to, we need to do better."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then that project may not be what I'm thinking of. This is more around, what kind of relationships can you gather from, your package, your dependencies. Do you see anomalies? Do you see patterns? Can you predict, right, something? But I don't think that there's a project like that. today in OpenSSF. So I'm not sure if we can talk about continuous compliance now that I think about it. Because SLSA doesn't have anything like that, right? SLSA just kind of upon build, they don't talk about anything, you know, while
Yeah.
you're waiting.
Yeah, yeah. It's all kind of, throughout during the course of the initial process, there's no kind of loop back.
Yeah, it does not have a loop back at the moment. Do we think SLSA should have a loop back? Right, when we're talking about, you know, the supply chain attacks and trying to improve our supply chain integrity, should we have something in the specification that addresses that feedback loop?
And I think it would be good. I mean, whenever it comes to, personally for me, whenever it comes to any security, it should always go back to the source, because let's face it, I mean, even when we were looking at like IPI last week, it's like there's stuff that's, it may have been clean at one point, now it's not. And if there's no loop back, we don't know it. If we don't go back and continuously check it, then it gets put in development, it gets put into build, now it's a public artifact. So I just don't know if that's a part that SLSA specifically needs to play, or if it's one of the other one of the other security components.
Yeah, I'm wondering if something like that would fall under like vuln remediation, because you would have it eventually, but only if you scan your product again.
Right.
But if you don't scan it, you're oblivious.
There is an aspect here, Melba, of in the future, you could say, hey, the trust in a product requires an anti-malware scan every 2 weeks or so, and therefore that potentially SLSA claim, it needs to be public and a continuous produced thing, so that you can make the decision to whether to trust it or not.
Okay. I've written that down, and if I wrote it incorrectly, Roy, please, in the meeting notes.
Yeah, so Roy, it sounds like you're essentially saying trust is not a one and done. Trust is, we're continuing. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have to continuously be checking the code. We need to be checking that source to make sure that if we're going back to IPI, we're going back to whatever repository we're using, that it's continuously validated and trusted.
Now, what I don't know a solution for is if you have a product that takes a dependency on an OSS component, and that OSS component has a published VEX against it. Do you use a SLSA claim against your product to declare that you're not susceptible to that compromise? Like, how do you cover that hole is a TBD at this point.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think what we do internally, not internally, but for our products, I'm going to use log4j as an example. If there was log4j present in a product, but wasn't called on, wasn't used, maybe it was like in some out, like, commented out code or something like that, then it's addressed as such, right? Like, we don't use this, we're not vulnerable because of XYZ. So we do address that factor, because not everybody's going to be vulnerable. It just depends on how you use something, right? Or if you even use it, it just happened to be in your repo as an example, and maybe it's never deployed in the product. It might just be in your test environment or something like that. So is that what you're getting at, Roy?
Basically, the that still is a problematic. On a continuous basis, how do you deal with, the subset of that is like, I have a bunch of libraries that use OpenSSL, and the area that's affected by the VEX isn't actually linked in against my product. There is no way to declare your derived product is not susceptible. And I don't know whether that's a claim independently of SLSA or a claim in a different format, or is it or is the only way to address it is to take a new update of the OpenSSL library, rebuild your product even though it wasn't affected by it. And that's still a nebulous area as far as I understand.
I wonder if this would, you're part of the specification calls, right, Roy?
Yeah, well, I'm involved in a lot of things. And
No, yeah, I'm just curious because we've been working on this hybrid model for open source and proprietary, and I'm wondering if this is something that should be taken into account there. Because this is more about, I wouldn't say enterprise, but companies making a product using open source, right? So they might have proprietary, they might have open source. So how do they deal with SLSA? So this almost seems like a hybrid scenario that we can address in the specification.
so I finally found the link I was looking for, Mel. So here's the link to the document that was started. Somebody has to go off and actually pull this thing together. It's just got notes in it at this point.
Okay, so this.
If you go down to the bottom is the original charter for what the document was. Keep going down.
Oh, this.
Yeah,
Got it.
and that is OCI the place we lived with, and does that where Skit takes over, or what are we going to use publicly? And that was the original intent of this document, but people are just making notes in here, and now we got to turn around and make it into something usable.
Got it. Thank you. Let me put that in here. Trying to remember OCS. I'm going to put that link here because this is where you commented. Apply. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I think we've somewhat addressed the continuous compliance and the publish artifact build. Obviously, there's a lot in build and development that we can do. What about design considerations? Because some of this doesn't apply necessarily to open source, but some do. And I don't think SLSA even talks about some of this. I think the regulatory mapping and the compliance mapping is the only thing from a SLSA point of view.
Well, the SSDF require, references, static analysis and fuzzing requirements, and SLSA then binds the output of that. So the question then becomes design considerations, so you can actually test it and fuzz it, but that's just indirect, not.
Yeah. The design considerations.
I would rather.
Go ahead.
This sounds, when you start getting into this bent of SLSA, it kind of gets into, do we go more towards the in toto model of declaring and signing the recipes going forward? And that, to me, SLSA is more the reverse side, which is here's claims pointing at evidence that was collected in the process of building something. One's a push model, one's a pull model, and I think we're basically on the pull side of it, right? We make a claim against the evidence that we meet this item, not declaring up front, here's how you're going to build your product.
Now, I know Mike left. I thought that tooling, is the tooling not addressing how to obtain SLSA, not just verify, but actually able to obtain it? Am I wrong in that?
Well, the tooling is a slightly different question, which is, do you have tools that produce evidence that SLSA claims can be bound against? And there's multiple ways to do that. I don't think we're going to dictate there is only one. We can use examples of tools that comply and generate this binding or generate this data. But I don't think we're going to limit ourselves here.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of, there was something, I'm trying to go to the SLSA GitHub page. SLSA GitHub language provenance generation. So this isn't verifying, this is generating the provenance. I'm trying to see some of the proof of provenance generator. Okay, so far what I'm seeing here is provenance generation, and then there's one repo with SLSA verifier. Like, how do you actually verify? So would
I would envision a verifier would just look at the repository of SLSA claims to make sure everything's complete to meet some bar, right? The fact that you use CodeQL or Prefast or anything else to generate static analysis data, or you use Go's fuzzing library versus the C++ fuzzing library, those are two different specific tools that produce evidence that SLSA claims can be bound to. I don't think we want a tool that says, hey, we do both at the same time.
okay, so tooling.
But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Where's everybody else in that?
That's what I would like to know. People to chime in. Quiet bunch today. Provenance generator. Folks, man, we've had so many livelier discussions. Today is like pulling teeth. Generator tools.
There's still people recovering from the long weekend. Come on.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I know I am.
Too many cocktails. Too much partying. Currently available. So I wonder. We could probably reference. I know. We could reference some of the tooling as a positioning, but I'd rather leave that to the tooling group. So I'm trying to. Should we leave to the tooling group to promote this aspect? I'm not sure. Okay, what else do we have? Any other things that you can think of, or maybe something that we haven't discussed that we should blog about? But I do like the idea of a blog series. Now we would have to figure out kind of timelines for them, right? So timeline. So let's say development. I'm guessing we would want to do development first and then build, publish, artifacts, and then continuous compliance. So what are we thinking, folks, for generating these 4 blogs and how long it would take to generate each? Nada. Do we think 2 weeks? Do we think a month? Given that we do have working sessions every other Tuesday, and then we have, the general meeting every other Tuesday. Would a month be sufficient?
Maybe a month and a half.
Month and a half?
Give at least three of the working session meetings.
5.
One to do this all over again, because I get the feeling that we're kind of lost in sauce. That question might have to be given over again, but then the other 2 to actually hash some stuff out.
Okay. Anybody second that, or have other comments on that? Okay, so we'll say 1.5. So I'm guessing then, I'm looking at the calendar. So a month and a half would be like October 20th or October 18th. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, October 18th. So that would put this at 10/18. That sound right? And then the following, I know there's vacation coming up because of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to say November 29th. I'm probably going to change that as we get closer. And then this will be, 2023 for published artifacts. So we'll get there when we get there. Thoughts, folks? I know we only have 9 minutes left. Sound good? Yay, nay, thumbs up, thumbs down. Yay, 1 thumbs up. I didn't see any other ones. Let's see. Okay. So, does anybody want to volunteer on starting these? Obviously, we can work on them during the working sessions, but if we can have like a lead for each of them, and then in the working sessions, we can always add to them. That way there's at least 1 point person and it's not the same person. Because if they get hit by a bus, we're SOL. So, so if we can have some volunteers, that'd be fantastic. Don't make me name call or do roulette and name calling. Come on now. Hey, Jay, I think I'm putting you down for development since you voted for 1.5 months. Is that okay?
Hey, go for it. I'll ask for help if needed.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, I will help as well, right? During the working sessions. So build, anybody want to volunteer for build? I know it's a couple months out, but we could technically always get started on it early, maybe do an outline. Actually, don't mind starting some of these, maybe outline. Yeah, so I'll volunteer to do some outlines on the 2023 items. Okay, so Jeff, Roy, I'm not going to pick on the new folks. They're too new.
I can go ahead and get started on build.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, you just want to reach out to me and get me involved. And just go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have 7 minutes left. Anything else? We can end a little early. I think this has been quite productive. I appreciate you all joining. I don't appreciate the teeth pulling though. Teeth pulling is not pleasant. So hopefully next time.
I'm sorry, Melba. It's just still trying to catch up from the week.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, so hopefully next week during the working session, it'll be a little livelier. So for the new folks, Ava and Bitsa, do you have any questions, comments, concerns before we end? No? I can't see your shaking head, Ava. Thumbs up, thumbs down?
No opinion, just here to listen and learn.
Okay, thank you.
Not promising to sign up to do any work, sorry.
Oh, no. I was just wondering if you had any questions.
No, just learning what you all are doing and what your flow is.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining. we'll end here today, 5 minutes early, and we will meet each other next week. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.